Have you ever wondered how people would treat you if they didn't know who you were? Imagine one of Hollywood's most legendary actors, Clint Eastwood, walking into an exclusive restaurant looking like a homeless man. What happened next will not only surprise you, but will also make you question everything you know about human nature. Stay until the end, because this story carries a powerful message that could change the way you see life forever. In the next few minutes, you'll witness how a simple social experiment revealed the true colors of humanity, and how one waitress's kindness led to an extraordinary turn of events that no one saw coming. This isn't just another celebrity story. It's a powerful lesson about compassion, prejudice, and the choices we make when we think no one is watching. Before we dive into this incredible tale, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You won't want to miss our weekly stories that showcase the extraordinary moments that change lives forever. If this video touches your heart, show your support by giving it a thumbs up. It helps us share these meaningful messages with more people who need to hear them. Now, let me take you back to that fateful evening at the Golden Oak restaurant, where an ordinary night was about to become an unforgettable lesson in human dignity. The elegant doors of Golden Oak swung open on that crisp evening, causing an immediate ripple of discomfort through the dining room. A man, appearing to be in his late 70s, shuffled in wearing a threadbare coat that had seen better days decades ago. His shoes were scuffed and worn, with one sole partially detached, making a subtle flapping sound against the polished marble floor. The man's weathered face bore deep lines of apparent hardship, while his unkempt grey hair and ungroomed beard added to his disheveled appearance. The maitre d', dressed impeccably in his tailored black suit, visibly tensed as the unexpected visitor made his way further into the establishment. His perfectly maintained composure cracked slightly as he watched the man's dirty fingers brush against the pristine cream-colored walls. The restaurant's regular patrons, many adorned in designer clothing and fine jewelry, began to shift uncomfortably in their seats, some even pulling their expensive handbags closer, as if protecting them from an invisible threat. Whispers erupted, like a gentle breeze through autumn leaves. "How did he get past security?" muttered a woman in pearls to her dining companion. "This isn't a soup kitchen," scoffed another patron loud enough for nearby tables to hear. The soft, classical music playing in the background seemed to fade against the growing murmur of disapproval and judgment that filled the air. Little did they know that beneath this masterfully crafted disguise was Clint Eastwood himself, the legendary actor and director whose net worth exceeded hundreds of millions. His trademark squint was hidden behind artificially puffy eyelids created by Hollywood's finest makeup artists. The commanding presence that had dominated screens for decades was now carefully concealed behind stooped shoulders and trembling hands. The transformation had taken hours of meticulous work. Special effects makeup artists had used silicone-based materials to alter the shape of his face, adding extra layers of aging beyond his natural years. His distinctive jawline was softened, and his skin was textured to appear weather-beaten and rough. Even his voice had been practiced to sound more frail and uncertain, a far cry from the commanding tones that had delivered some of cinema's most memorable lines. As he moved deeper into the restaurant, the reactions became more pronounced. A young couple quickly requested to be moved to a different table when the maitre d' began leading him toward their section. Business executives in power suits suddenly became deeply engrossed in their menus, avoiding any possible eye contact. The collective discomfort was palpable, exactly the response Eastwood had anticipated when planning this social experiment. The tension reached its peak when he finally settled into a corner table, his presence creating an invisible barrier that other diners carefully avoided. The waitstaff exchanged nervous glances, silently debating who would have to serve him. Not one of them realized they were participating in what would become one of the most talked about social experiments in recent history, orchestrated by one of Hollywood's most respected figures. Eastwood sat there, internally noting every reaction, every whispered comment, and every averted gaze, preparing to teach them all an unforgettable lesson about humanity and prejudice. In the quiet solitude of his sprawling Carmel Valley estate, Clint Eastwood sat in his study, surrounded by countless awards, movie posters, and memorabilia from his illustrious career. The golden afternoon light filtered through large windows, casting shadows across the polished hardwood floors. Despite all his achievements and the comfort of his success, something had been gnawing at his conscience lately. He'd been watching the news, scrolling through social media, and observing how people seemed increasingly disconnected from one another, quick to judge based on superficial appearances. The legendary actor found himself reflecting on his own journey from a working-class background to becoming one of Hollywood's most respected figures. Had success made him lose touch with reality? More importantly, had society as a whole lost its ability to see the human being behind the facade? The idea started small, like a seed planted in fertile soil. What if he, Clint Eastwood, stripped away all the trappings of fame and fortune? What if he became invisible to the world that had celebrated him for decades? The more he thought about it, the more compelling the concept became. He wanted to understand firsthand how people treat those they believe have nothing to offer them. As he paced the length of his study, past the Unforgiven Oscar and the countless other accolades, the plan began to take shape. This wouldn't be just another celebrity stunt or publicity move. No, this would be something more profound, a social experiment that could potentially hold a mirror to society's soul. He picked up his phone and began making calls to his most trusted inner circle. He needed people who could keep this experiment absolutely confidential. No leaks, no hints to the press. The mission was clear. He would transform himself into someone society often overlooks, someone people pass by without a second glance. The weight of what he was about to do settled on his shoulders. At his age, many would be content to rest on their laurels. But Eastwood had always been different. This experiment could either restore his faith in humanity or confirm his worst fears about how far we've strayed from basic human decency. As the sun set over Carmel Valley, casting long shadows across his mansion's manicured lawns, Eastwood made his final decision. He would strip away everything that made him recognizable, everything that made him Clint Eastwood, to reveal a truth about humanity that needed to be seen. The question wasn't just about how people would treat him, it was about what their treatment would reveal about the state of our collective soul. In a secluded makeup studio in Los Angeles, far from prying eyes and paparazzi cameras, Clint Eastwood sat patiently as a team of Hollywood's most skilled makeup artists worked their magic. The transformation process began in the early hours of the morning, requiring meticulous attention to detail to ensure his disguise would be completely convincing under the harsh restaurant lighting. The lead makeup artist, with decades of experience in aging effects, carefully applied layers of specialized silicone-based materials to alter Eastwood's distinctive facial features. They deepened his natural wrinkles and created new ones, paying particular attention to the areas around his eyes and mouth. His trademark intense gaze was softened with carefully placed prosthetics that made his eyes appear more sunken and tired. The team worked on his skin texture next, using specialized techniques to create the appearance of weather-beaten, rough patches that suggested years of exposure to the elements. They added subtle discoloration and age spots, the kind that comes from spending countless hours outdoors. His hands, those same hands that had held countless prop guns in Western films, were aged with artificial liver spots and slightly swollen knuckles to suggest years of manual labor. His iconic silver hair was transformed using temporary dyes to add patches of yellowing grey, making it appear unwashed and unkempt. They added subtle tremors to his usually steady hands through careful positioning of finger prosthetics, creating the illusion of someone who might be struggling with age-related conditions. The wardrobe team selected clothing with equal care. Each piece was carefully chosen and artificially aged. A worn jacket with frayed edges, pants with natural wear patterns at the knees and pockets, and shoes that had been deliberately scuffed and worn down. Every item told its own story of hardship and neglect. When the final touches were complete, Eastwood stood before the mirror, barely recognizing himself. The man staring back at him wasn't the Hollywood legend who had commanded respect for decades. Instead, he saw someone society might easily overlook, vulnerable, aged, and apparently down on his luck. The transformation was so complete that even his closest friends would have walked past him on the street without a second glance. As he studied his reflection, Eastwood practiced different ways of moving, developing a slight shuffle and stoop that would complete the illusion. He worked on changing his voice, adding a slight tremor and uncertainty to his usually commanding tone. Every detail had to be perfect for the social experiment to work, and as he made final adjustments to his appearance, he knew he was ready to step into a role unlike any he had played before. The Golden Oak restaurant stood as a beacon of luxury in Beverly Hills, its Art Deco facade illuminated by warm golden lights that matched its prestigious name. The establishment had earned its reputation over decades of serving Hollywood's elite, with its hand-painted ceilings, crystal chandeliers, and a wine cellar that housed some of the world's rarest vintages. Eastwood had specifically chosen this location after careful consideration. The restaurant's average dinner bill exceeded $200 per person, and reservations were typically booked months in advance. Its clientele consisted of industry executives, celebrities, and wealthy entrepreneurs, people who were accustomed to a certain level of refinement and, perhaps unconsciously, had developed specific expectations about who belonged in their world. That evening, Eastwood deliberately arrived during peak dinner service when the valet parking area would be bustling with luxury vehicles. Instead of his usual high-end car, he borrowed an old, dented Toyota Corolla from the film crew, a vehicle that would immediately stand out among the sea of Mercedes and Bentleys that typically lined the entrance. He parked the car himself, choosing a dimly lit corner of the auxiliary lot, far from the watchful eyes of the valet staff. The walk from his parking spot to the restaurant's entrance was calculated to be visible to diners through the floor-to-ceiling windows, giving them ample time to notice and react to his approach. The restaurant's interior was meticulously designed with soft lighting, intimate booths, and tables spaced far enough apart to ensure private conversations. The marble floors gleamed under vintage chandeliers, and the air was perfumed with the subtle scent of fresh flowers that were changed daily. Every detail of the setting had been carefully curated to create an atmosphere of exclusivity. White-gloved waiters moved gracefully between tables, serving dishes on fine china and pouring wine into crystal glasses. The gentle murmur of conversation, mixed with the soft notes from a grand piano in the corner, creating the perfect backdrop for what was about to unfold. The maitre d' stood at his podium like a guardian, carefully screening each guest to maintain the restaurant's prestigious atmosphere. As Eastwood approached the entrance, he could already feel the weight of his experiment settling in. The Golden Oak wasn't just a restaurant. It was a stage where society's prejudices and preconceptions would be put to the test. Every detail, from the expensive artwork on the walls to the perfectly pressed linens on each table, would serve as props in this unscripted social drama he was about to direct. The elegant dining room at Golden Oak fell into an uncomfortable silence as Eastwood's worn boots left faint scuff marks on the immaculate marble flooring. The crystal chandeliers seemed to dim as the restaurant's refined atmosphere was disrupted by his presence. Every head turned, creating a wave of whispers that rippled through the room like a disturbing breeze. The maître d', dressed in his perfectly pressed tuxedo, visibly stiffened at his podium. His usually welcoming smile transformed into a thin line of disapproval as he watched this unexpected guest shuffle towards the entrance. His manicured hands gripped his reservation book tighter, already preparing excuses about being fully booked. For the evening, the waitstaff, typically the epitome of professional composure, broke character as they exchanged meaningful glances and whispered concerns behind raised hands. A young server nearly dropped her tray of champagne flutes when Eastwood's path crossed near her station. The sommelier, who had been enthusiastically discussing vintage wines with wealthy patrons, abruptly cut his conversation short and retreated toward the wine cellar. Regular customers began shifting uncomfortably in their seats, some even repositioning their chairs to turn away from the unexpected visitor. A woman in designer clothing clutched her expensive handbag closer, while her dining companion adjusted his Rolex with nervous fingers. The soft, classical music playing in the background seemed to fade against the growing murmur of judgment and discomfort. The restaurant's security guard, usually stationed discreetly by the entrance, took a few steps forward, his hand instinctively moving toward his radio. The hostess frantically flipped through her reservation book, hoping to find some policy or protocol to handle this unusual situation. Their prejudice was painfully obvious, written across their faces and evident in their body language. A couple celebrating their anniversary requested to be moved to a different section, making no attempt to lower their voices as they complained about the deteriorating standards of the establishment. Business executives in tailored suits suddenly became deeply engrossed in their menus, avoiding any possible eye contact with the disheveled newcomer. The collective discomfort was palpable, exactly the response Eastwood had anticipated when planning this social experiment. Every reaction, every whispered comment, and every averted gaze was telling its own story about society's prejudices and preconceptions. The stage was set for what would become an unforgettable lesson in human dignity. In the midst of the tense atmosphere at Golden Oak, Maria, a waitress with silver-streaked hair and compassionate eyes, emerged as a beacon of humanity. While her colleagues retreated and whispered their disapproval, she stepped forward with genuine warmth, her gentle demeanor standing in stark contrast to the cold reception from others. Maria's approach was natural and dignified, showing no trace of the judgment that clouded the faces of those around her. Her hands, steady and sure, gathered a clean menu as she walked directly toward Eastwood, her steps purposeful and welcoming. The other staff members watched in disbelief, some shaking their heads in disapproval as she broke ranks with their collective prejudice. "Good evening, sir. Welcome to Golden Oak." She greeted him with a smile that reached her eyes, her voice carrying the same warmth she would offer any guest. Despite the manager's visible disapproval and the uncomfortable shifting of nearby diners, she maintained her professional composure, treating him with the respect that every human being deserves. The contrast between Maria's behavior and that of her colleagues was striking. While others made excuses to avoid his table or whispered behind raised hands, she took pride in her service, ensuring his water glass remained full and checking on his comfort with genuine concern. Her actions weren't merely professional courtesy, they reflected a deeper understanding of human dignity. Some regular customers openly complained about being seated near someone like that, but Maria remained unwavering. She positioned herself as a shield between their judgment and Eastwood's dignity, her quiet determination speaking volumes about her character. Her silver-streaked hair caught the light as she moved efficiently between tables, managing to maintain her other duties. While ensuring her unexpected guest felt welcomed, the manager had attempted to intervene, suggesting in hushed tones that perhaps this guest should be asked to leave, but Maria stood her ground. "Everyone deserves to be treated with respect," she said firmly, though quietly enough to maintain the guest's dignity. Her gentle eyes held a fierce determination that made even the manager step back. Through it all, Maria's authentic compassion never wavered. She didn't know she was serving one of Hollywood's most legendary figures, but it wouldn't have mattered. Either way, for her, every person who walked through those doors deserved the same level of respect and dignity, regardless of their appearance or perceived status in society. Throughout the evening, Eastwood observed the stark contrast between Sarah's compassionate service and others' cold shoulders. While some guests loudly complained about the restaurant lowering its standards, Sarah remained steadfast in treating him with dignity and respect. The tension in Golden Oak reached its climax as Clint Eastwood slowly rose from his corner table. The classical music seemed to fade into silence as he cleared his throat, commanding attention from the entire dining room. The transformation in his posture was immediate. The stooped shoulders straightened and the trembling hands steadied with purpose. "Before I settle my bill," he began, his voice shifting from the frail tone he'd maintained all evening to the commanding baritone that had delivered countless memorable lines. "I'd like to share something with all of you." The restaurant fell into complete silence as the familiar voice of Clint Eastwood filled the air. The maitre d' froze mid-step, and several diners nearly dropped their utensils in shock. As he carefully removed the prosthetic elements from his face, gasps of recognition rippled through the dining room. The transformation from a disheveled stranger to Hollywood legend happened before their eyes, leaving the audience of diners and staff in stunned silence. Some faces turned red with embarrassment, while others paled with the realization of how they had behaved. "Tonight, I came here to understand how we treat those we believe have nothing to offer us," he continued, his iconic gaze sweeping across the room. "What I witnessed was both disappointing and enlightening. While most of you saw someone to avoid, one person, Sarah, chose to see a human being worthy of dignity and respect." He reached into his weathered coat and pulled out his signature. Black credit card, holding it up like a mirror to society's prejudices. "This piece of plastic shouldn't determine how we treat each other. Our humanity should." The weight of his words hung heavy in the air as several diners lowered their heads in shame. Before anyone could react, he turned to Sarah, who stood with tears in her eyes, finally understanding the full scope of what had transpired. "You didn't see a wealthy man or a celebrity. You saw a person who deserved respect regardless of their appearance. That kind of compassion is rarer than any fortune." The revelation wasn't just about his identity. It was a powerful lesson about human dignity that left an indelible mark on everyone present. As he signed the bill, adding a life-changing tip for Sarah, the atmosphere in Golden Oak had transformed from one of judgment to profound self-reflection. The climactic moment arrived as Eastwood reached into his weathered coat, pulling out an envelope that would forever change Sarah's life. Inside was not just a check with a substantial sum, but a promise of transformation that went far beyond monetary value. Her hands trembled as she opened it, tears welling up in her eyes as she realized the magnitude of this gesture. But the true reward extended far beyond that envelope. Within days, the story of Eastwood's social experiment at Golden Oak began spreading across social media platforms and news outlets. Videos captured by diners that evening went viral, accumulating millions of views and sparking intense discussions about social prejudice and human dignity. The impact rippled through society like waves in a still pond. Morning shows featured segments about the experiment, while social commentators analyzed its deeper implications. elderly viewers particularly connected with the story, seeing reflections of their own experiences with age-related discrimination and the importance of maintaining dignity for all. Sarah used her unexpected windfall to establish a community center, focusing on programs that bridge social divides and promote understanding between different socio-economic groups. The center became a living testament to the power of kindness, offering meals, support, and dignity to those society often overlooks. Golden Oak itself underwent a transformation, becoming a symbol of inclusivity rather than exclusivity. They implemented new training programs for their staff, emphasizing the importance of treating every guest with equal respect and dignity. A plaque now hangs in their entrance, reading, "Everyone deserves dignity," a permanent reminder of that transformative evening. The story continued to resonate across generations, particularly touching those who had experienced similar prejudices. It became a powerful reminder that beneath our external appearances, we all share the same fundamental need for respect and human dignity. Most importantly, Sarah's reward wasn't just the check. It was becoming a symbol of hope and change, proving that one person's kindness could spark a movement that touches countless lives. Her story continues to inspire others to choose compassion over judgment, regardless of appearances or circumstances. Today, Golden Oak Restaurant stands transformed, not just as an upscale dining establishment, but as a powerful symbol of social change and human dignity. The events of that memorable evening with Clint Eastwood sparked a revolution in how the restaurant industry approaches inclusivity and respect for all patrons. Sarah's community center, built with Eastwood's generous gift, has become a beacon of hope in the community. The center serves thousands of people annually, offering not just meals, but also programs that bridge social divides. Its walls are adorned with the simple yet powerful message, "Everyone deserves dignity," the same words that now greet visitors at Golden Oak's entrance. The restaurant itself underwent a complete cultural transformation. They implemented comprehensive staff training programs focusing on treating every guest with equal respect, regardless of their appearance or perceived status. The story of that fateful night is now part of their employee orientation, serving as a powerful reminder of the importance of human dignity. Regular patrons who witnessed the experiment that evening became ambassadors for change in their own social circles. The story continues to circulate in Beverly Hills and beyond, challenging preconceptions about worth and status. Many who were present that night still speak about how it changed their perspective forever. What started as one man's social experiment has evolved into a movement that continues to influence how society views and treats others. The legacy of that evening proves that true character isn't found in designer clothes or expensive cars. It's measured in how we treat those who can't offer anything in return. Most importantly, Sarah's story continues to inspire new generations of service industry workers. Her actions demonstrate that one person's courage to stand against prejudice can create ripples of change that transform countless lives. The experiment proved that wealth and status are poor measures of human worth. It's our capacity for kindness that truly defines us. The legacy of that evening at Golden Oak remains a powerful reminder that beneath our external appearances and circumstances, we all share the same fundamental need for dignity and respect. In a world where we often judge based on appearances, Clint Eastwood's social experiment at Golden Oak serves as a powerful reminder of our shared humanity. That evening wasn't just about exposing prejudice. It was about showing us how a single act of kindness can change lives forever. Think about it. While others turned away, Sarah chose to see beyond the worn clothes and weathered appearance. She didn't know she was serving a Hollywood legend, but it wouldn't have mattered. Her compassion wasn't driven by who someone was, but by who she chose to be. Today, Golden Oak stands transformed, not just as an elegant restaurant, but as a symbol of hope and dignity. Sarah's community center continues to touch countless lives, proving that when we choose kindness over judgment, we create ripples of change that reach far beyond our immediate surroundings. Remember, we all have the power to be someone's Sarah. In a world that sometimes feels cold and disconnected, your simple act of kindness could be the light that changes someone's world. As Clint Eastwood showed us that night, true character isn't measured by what we have, but by how we treat others when we think no one is watching. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories that remind us of what truly matters in life. Remember to ring that notification bell. You won't want to miss our next episode about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, because at the end of the day, we're all just walking each other home, and kindness is the light that shows us the way.